What's up, everybody? It's Danny Gould with the Gould team, selling Silicon Valley. Welcome to the inaugural podcast episode number 001 of the yet to be named podcast. Topics to include real estate agency, real estate investing, business in general, and of course fitness, bro life. Sean, today's guest is none other than my good friend Sean Cali, who I met several years ago as the front desk boy at Intero Real Estate, and since then has gone on to flip his first home and made over $300,000. And so today we're just going to talk about how exactly he did it, what his secrets were, what advice he has for any young hustlers out there that are just looking to get started, and finally, what his favorite color is, because of course that's also important as well. Sean, thank you so much for joining. And
it's a pleasure,
dude. You are the first. When we hit 1 million podcast subscribers, you could say that you were the first podcast guest on the yet to be named podcast. Because we're not going to name it Selling Silicon Valley, because we're branching out of just the valley, right? So thank you everyone who's joined on the live stream. By the way, you guys are the real fans, the real OGs, and I love you guys. So Sean, thanks for joining, man. Why don't you start off by introducing yourself to the audience and just tell us about yourself.
Right. So my name is Sean. I'm 22 years old. Got started in real estate I would say 2 years ago. So when I was I was either 19 or 20. So I got started in real estate. And what I mean by got started is just learning, right? Just educating myself in podcasts and in books. So listening to this is like a great first step in learning. So that's kind of how I got started 2 years ago. And I was working a sales job, right? I was working at a fitness industry, a wellness facility, 24-hour fitness. I was a sales manager. And that's, and it wasn't really making the bucks. So I had to do something else, and like he said, I ended up getting into Intero Real Estate as a MIT front desk, whatever you want to call it, because I thought I was going to learn how to flip homes there. And I can guarantee you will not learn how to flip homes there, so you had to learn on your own. So there's there's a lot of it's a big learning curve. It's a lot different than being an agent, because it's real estate's really complex. So there's a lot of factors when it comes to real estate, so you can do a lot of things. So it depends on what your personality type is, and like Danny's a great real estate agent.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
That was so nice of you. Thanks for dropping that in there. Hey, so I think you actually raised a really interesting point. Real estate is, being an agent, you definitely need to have a certain kind of personality, right? But I'm sure that you'll agree that in the genre of real estate, there are things that you can do to make money regardless of your personality. You don't necessarily need to be like me, super outgoing and everything. If you're a little more reserved and you don't really want to, sell houses, there are other ways that you can make money in real estate. So I think that's really insightful of you to point out. So what actually initially inspired you to start flipping? Because you were working at the front desk, and what triggered your initial interest in flipping houses? Right.
That's a great question. So it actually started before I started working at Intero Real Estate. So like I said, I thought working at Intero Real Estate would get me to learn how to flip houses, but that wasn't the case. I was actually like I said, I was working a sales job in 24-hour fitness, and I had this guest. He's from Canada. I don't remember his name, but I'm really grateful and blessed to meet this guy, because I asked him, hey, what do you do? And I think that's one thing as an entrepreneur, you have to be curious, right? So I asked him, what do you do? And he said, I'm here for the next 3 months. We're flipping 3 condos. I don't think I told you this story, but
No.
we're flipping 3 condos, and we're gonna make 50 grand each. And I kind of did the math. I mean, 50 times 3, that's 150 grand in 3 months. And I was working a sales job making 20,000, 30,000 a year. So that kind of just sparked in my head. I'm like, okay, I need to get into real estate. So I just started reading a lot of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think that's where everyone got started, just by reading that book. I mean, that's like, that's where everyone gets started, honestly. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read this other book by Nick Ruiz, Flip. It's another great book. So I got started with those 2 books, and from there I knew I had to leave. I had to leave the fitness world and get into real estate. So I applied at Intero Real Estate, thinking that I was gonna learn how to flip, like I said, but it didn't really turn out that way. But it was still a great experience. It was a great experience working at Intero, and being able to be around agents, and that kind of thing, and learning about the market. I think that's the most important part of being able to work as like a front desk at Intero Real Estate, because you're surrounded with agents who know so much about the market. So it was a great insight. So that's kind of how I got started. And while I was at Intero, I would work 9 to 5 from 6 to 9, and the weekend I would work on the real estate flipping business, generating leads, whatever, what have you. So it took a while. So it's kind of like building a business right after my 9 to 5 job. So it was kind of like a side hustle.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing that you took a 9 to 5 job, and then immediately after that you put in, what was it? You said 3 hours maybe of prospecting time per day.
Exactly.
To generate that first deal. How many months did it take you before you actually got your first deal?
16 months. 16 months, yeah.
So you were prospecting for a year and 4 months before you closed, or before you identified your first flip?
I don't really know the exact number. I started in July of 2016. I got in touch with the first seller that on, I would say, late August of 2017, and we closed on it on I closed on December and sold it on January 31st. So it was close up to the mic. Right. Yeah. So, and prior to this, you guys have to understand that I was talking to several sellers. I went to several appointments. I've gotten a lot of rejection. So, people just see me as just doing this first deal and, sealing this first seller. But I've met a lot of sellers. I've been to several appointments prior to it. And I think, that's the reason why I succeeded, because what if I quit the first 3 months,
right,
the first 4, 5, 6, 7, or even the 13th month, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today.
And it's so hard not to get discouraged, right?
Oh yeah. You gotta love it, honestly. So I mean, every single day I didn't think it was a job. It was just enjoying the process,
right,
and the journey. So
yeah, and I mean, I gotta say, Sean, by the way, so Sean was working at the front desk at my office, and so one of the things that really impressed me about Sean was that right off the bat he asked me a lot of questions about real estate. And then as time progressed, he started to ask less and less questions. And so, but frankly, I just figured, Sean, that you were just focused on school and that you were less involved. But it turns out that you quit school altogether, right?
Right.
And now you had been spending almost all of your time pretty much just prospecting and hitting it over the head, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So you put the pedal to the metal and really turned on the gas when I felt that you were the least involved, right? But it seems to me like you're in super stealth secret mode, right?
Yeah,
or you're trying to keep it on the DL, which is fine. I mean, it's smart. Everyone has different ways of doing things, but
right.
But anyway, Sean, so let's get into the nitty-gritty, because obviously the first home that you purchased, what was the purchase price of that first deal?
It was $1,049,000 and some taxes, so I think total was $1,066,000.
So how does a 22-year-old have $1,066,000 lying around to finance a deal like that?
You don't.
Okay.
So with real estate, you can get really creative. So you could use other people's money. So if the deal makes sense, the money will come. The money was the last thing I worried about. All I cared about was finding the right seller, the right lead, the right deal, and the money just comes its way. It's because if there's enough equity on a deal, investors will hop on your deal. They'll give you money. It doesn't matter. So financing, you can get hard money loans. They don't check your money they don't check your credit. They don't check anything really. Hard money loans are really easy to get. There's a lot of them out there. So if you just literally search up hard money loans real estate online, they'll even lend up to 90% of your purchase price. So you would just have to come up with 10%, which is what I did. So the purchase price was $1,049,000. I got 90% loan to value. So all I needed to find was $150,000 around that part. So, and that wasn't easy. That was really easy to find. It just kind of came on my way. Then like third day I had it under contract. So it was really easy to find.
Hold on a second. So it was easy to find $150,000?
Yeah, it's really easy because the deal makes sense. I mean, I told my lender, hey, I already have 90% covered. It's about framing too, right? I told my lender, hey, I got 90% covered. I just need 10%, and I'll get you in a deal. Just bring me the 10%. I'll give you equity of the deal. So he said yes, and I gave him 20% equity of my potential deal. So that's kind of how I structured that. There's different ways. I mean, typically private money, when someone puts 10%, you want to just, give them like some points and some interest. But since it's my first deal, I wanted to, give some equity, that kind of thing.
Right. So instead of trading an initial amount of money, you traded equity on the back end of the deal, which translated to more money in your investor's pocket.
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
A lot more, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, but this investor, I mean, like, how do you even meet these sorts of people that have, buku bucks lying around, like $150,000?
Right. I mean, we're in the Silicon Valley. Everyone has money, right? I mean, 100,000, 200,000, 400,000 in the bank. Like, you'll see that normally. It's nothing new. You can go to meetup.com, type in real estate, and start networking. Right. The more you're out there, the more you're talking to people. You tell them, hey, I'm an investor. I need more money. People will go out there and and lend you money. It's really easy to get. You just have to find the right deal. The deal has to make sense, and just keep networking. Right. The more people you meet, the bigger the network you get. So it's really important to just get out there. So like I said, go to meetup.com, search real estate. And you'll probably find some that says private money lenders. So you can go to those meetups, and literally there's all your money's right there. When you go to that meetup, you're just looking like a field of old folks with a lot of money. So you could go there and just shake their hand, take them to coffee. I mean, $5 coffee that converts to like $150,000 of funds. Why not, right?
Right. Well, I think you might be playing it off as a little bit easier than it really was, right? Because at some point these people have to trust you, and you can't. No one's going to just lend you the money, right? I'm assuming that you had to build some sort of relationship, like you just mentioned coffee, right? Like, I'm assuming this happened over a series of meetings and exchanges.
Exactly.
It didn't just happen like no one just opened up their pocketbook for you and gave you $150,000. You had to show them the financials of the deal. Mm-hmm. You had to instill a sense of confidence that you could actually execute on the deal, and execute the flip, because let's be real, if there's no meat on the bone, the guy's not going to, anybody who has that kind of money lying around, correct me if I'm wrong,
right,
isn't the kind of person that's just going to give that money away. They're really going to make sure that there's a benefit for them on the back end.
Right. It's not only the investment, but also the person. I came off as someone who's, I knew what I was doing, and I knew what I was doing because, I was in it for 16 months, and I was day in, day out, I was learning it. So they have to trust you first and foremost before they even lend you any money. So, because you're the collateral, right? If you don't satisfy your lender at the end of it, like it's bad news for you, right? Because you have to make sure everyone's happy, right? So you gotta just say what you're gonna do and just execute, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm wondering here because we've been talking about the rosy part of the deal, right? But did you have any challenges during the course of it?
Oh, dude, yeah, a lot. So I've had a lot of no's. I've had a lot of deals that I thought I was gonna close. I've had 75. I had 75,000 on the line. That's probably gonna be on another story. I've had another deal. There's a lot of deals that came in my lap that I didn't execute because of experience and didn't know what to do. So, you just learn. I mean, and one thing I learned is just don't count your chickens before they hatch, because, little mid-June 2017, I was already ready to quit my job because I thought I had this $75,000 deal that I was going to close in El Sobrante. I ended up working with the wrong seller. So the seller I was working with was out of state, and he or she didn't even own the property. So that was kind of sketch in the first and foremost. I shouldn't, do some research, do a lot of research. And, I almost got in that deal, and it was horrible, right? And then, I thought I had 75 grand ready in my bank account, and it fell out. And, it was sad.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to lose 75. But, I mean, all in all, though, wouldn't you agree that every deal that falls through or every opportunity that you miss, at the very least, is some sort of learning experience that you're not going to repeat again?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's all about learning. I failed a lot, so if you just keep failing forward, you'll get there. Till this day, I'm still failing. You always learn something every single day. So, people always say, what's the return on investment? What's the ROI? I see it more of as, I see ROI more of as like a return on information. Even if I didn't get anything monetarily from a deal or from a lead, from a seller, what did I learn? Did I learn something out of it? Then if I did, then hey, I'm not gonna be sad about it, right? So just kind of move forward and just keep learning, because you still learn something from it, right? So that's kind of how I see things.
I love it, man. I love that ROI, return on information. Gonna jot that one down. I'm glad that we talked about some of your failures, Sean, because I think a lot of people get into it and they think, okay, well, I'm gonna hit home runs and knock it out of the park. But you and I both know that, especially here in the Silicon Valley and in any market, right? Mm-hmm. You have a lot of competition. Like, there's a lot of people gunning for deals in this market, right? And so how do you actually go about trying to find these deals, right? How do you actually go out there and find a potential flip? Because there's a lot of ways to do it, but there's also a lot of competition.
Right. You're not only competing with other investors, you're also competing with real estate agents, right? But I don't really see agents or investors as competition. They're more of your connections, but as far as finding deals, there's different ways to find deals. There's free ways, there's paid ways. I started with, I don't know if I told you this, but I started with bandit signs. Those
you did tell me that.
Those signs that says "We buy houses." I tried that. Didn't resonate with me. It wasn't something I did. It was
ghetto.
Yeah. No. I stopped doing that. I only did that for a month. So I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. This is way too much. I've done flyer drops. I went to Home Depot, started flying dropping. I did that. That didn't work for me. So these are free ways, right? You can do these. Direct mail. I literally opened up like 3 lines of credit and just threw it all out in direct mail. I wouldn't suggest that, by the way. Don't open lines of credit and just throw it in marketing. You can, but you got to do it strategically and smartly. And I ran out of funds. I was literally capped of my credit cards. I was over $20,000 in debt, but that $20,000 of debt gave me a lot of experience, because sending direct mail and all this got me in front of sellers, got me in front of talking to sellers, because that was the experience that I needed. And once I capped out my credit cards, I started cold calling. So, just started dialing and started calling. So that's another form of marketing. So direct mail and cold calling right now is what I'm doing, if you guys are curious. And I'm looking into PPC, so pay-per-click, something online, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to get in front of the sellers. Door knocking is another one. I don't know what else. I mean, I'm sure.
Well, I know that since I've had the privilege of listening to another podcast that featured you, I know that you had a specific term for what you've been doing, because there's a term in real estate, especially when it comes to trying to identify flip properties, is driving for dollars,
Correct.
right? And driving for dollars, for those of you that don't know, is basically going around neighborhoods and scouring them for the ugliest, crappiest, worst homes in the neighborhood, because let's face it, those are the ones that are going to need rehab, and a lot of those sellers can be in distress. And so, Sean, maybe take us through what you do that's a slight twist or variation on that.
Right. So driving for dollars, like you said, you just drive around neighborhoods, but it's 2018. There's Google Maps, right? If you literally type in your home address on Google, you will see your home right there, and you can start walking. So I call it browsing for dollars. So you could literally, depending on how updated Google Maps is in that area that you're looking to target, you can literally move around, go around on Google Maps and find the houses that need some disrepair or need some work, right? You can do that. Things to look for: overgrown grass, hoarders, shot roof. There's a lot of indicators that the house needs a lot of work. So you could find that via Google Maps, and then find the owner and skip trace them, give them a call, be like, hey, I know this is Sean, I know this call's completely out of the blue, I'm calling in regards to the home on 123 Main Street. I'm interested in buying. If you're interested in selling, give me a call, and kind of just started from there.
Awesome. And I want to make one thing clear, because I want to make sure that everyone at home understands this as well. When you're calling these people and you're flipping a property, I know that there's a stigma behind flippers and investors as trying to take advantage of people. Mm-hmm. And I want your opinion or your take on that mindset. And do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, I do agree and I disagree, because there is some people out there who just looking to take money and just take advantage of sellers, that kind of thing. But when I do present my deals to sellers, I tell them, hey, if you want top market value, you should probably list it with a real estate agent. I know a good one. His name is Danny. But if that doesn't work, if you don't want to list it with an agent, you don't want 150 people walking your open house, then I might be a better fit for you. I mean, I could make it really easy and convenient, but obviously, I'm an investor and I need something on the bone. So, they'll understand that, because I mean, at the end of the day, they do understand the whole no commissions, no closing costs. They understand it, because I mean, this has been going on since the 1960s. People have been flipping since the 1960s, so it's really normal. It's really the value that provide and the solution. You give them different offers, right? I mean, like I said, if it doesn't work for me, I could give it to Danny as a listing, and I can tell Danny, hey, just give me 80% of the listing.
Yeah, except it's not legal. Okay. So really, what you're saying to me is that you're telling the sellers, or you give them options so that they know what they understand the ramifications of selling a home off market,
exactly,
etc. So at least you're providing them with options, and then let them make the decision. And I've seen this as an agent, I see this all the time, where sellers are willing to leave money on the table for convenience, for reasons of time constraint. A lot of people that have homes that are in bad condition are actually very, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of these people are actually very self-conscious about the state that their home is in, and they actually don't want the public to see it at all. Exactly. And so they're looking for exit strategies, because they need to get out, but they don't want the stress of putting their home on the market, because they feel like everyone's going to walk through my house and everyone's going to see that, I'm a hoarder and this and that. And what someone like you provides is the ability to just bypass all of that. Yes, sell their home to you for less than market value, but it's in shambles, and then you take on the responsibility ultimately of fixing up the home, flipping it, and hopefully making a profit at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Cool. So I want to also touch, Sean, on one thing, because I know that there's probably a lot of younger people watching. Right. How did you have the courage to do this?
I don't know, man. I just had to do it. There was no other way. I just made a decision. I was going to get into real estate, and I was going to get into, because originally there's this term called wholesaling. That's where I wanted to get started with, but it's a little bit low tier than flipping, but it's another way to create quick cash flow. It's you're basically an agent, but for distressed homeowners type of thing. So that's kind of what you do as a wholesaler, finding off market opportunities. So that's kind of how I started, and I thought it was easy because you just connect the seller and the buyer, and you're good. So the courage was really easy to kind of grasp. I mean, you just find a seller and a buyer. That's it. So the concept was really easy. It's just taking action, and as you keep taking action, it gets tougher and tougher, but you just have to stick to it. But yeah, I mean, as far as, I didn't expect my first deal to do a rehab, or I didn't really do a rehab. You can call it a prehab, or you can call it a wholetail. So I didn't really do much to it.
Take us through that phrase, wholetailing, because a lot of people know rehab, which is to rehab the property. A lot of people know what wholesaling is, right? But wholetailing, that's a term that isn't really thrown around that much. So go ahead and tell us what that means.
Right. Wholetailing is basically you buy the property, and then you literally just clean it up, because the house that I bought, it was in great condition. I mean, they haven't renovated it in the 90s, but it was in really, really great condition. You didn't have to do anything to it, really. I mean, if you wanted to change it, feel free, you can. But I just thought to myself, I just need to clean it up, change the garage door, paint, new carpet, or I didn't do it. I just cleaned the carpets, landscaping, and I'm like, the buyer can deal with themselves. I mean, I'm sure the buyer that's going to buy this, they're going to make it fix it the way they want it. So that's kind of how I thought of it. And with this hot market, you just take advantage of that strategy. So that's kind of like the strategy I'm trying to go for in this hot market, is just close on it and put it back on the market, right? Faster, easier, and I'm lazy.
and that doesn't work. And that doesn't work in a lot of markets, right? Because right here, I want like everyone to hear this, right? Here in Silicon Valley, in the last 6 months, we have appreciated upwards of like 10 to 15% across almost every single market in the area. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And so to really, I mean, it's to do this in any other market, you're probably going to have to, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, go through a little bit more extensive of a renovation in order for there to be enough meat on the bone, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, it depends on your market. Like Denver, Colorado, or if you do this at Denver, you could probably do the wholetailing strategy. California, you could wholetail. DC market, Seattle, in Alaska, you probably can't. So you gotta pick and choose your market, right? Because I know a lot of people. I know a lot in my network who are doing the same strategy, different market, but it's a hot market. So you gotta look at your days on market, look at the data. Data is really important. One thing I learned from one of the guys I do follow, he says, data, not drama. So you gotta make sure you know your data and kind of look at the reports of Altos.
Right. Altos. Yeah. Well, the other thing is too, and I want to make this clear, like you hit a grand slam on this first deal. I mean, this is not your typical.
Oh yeah.
This is not your typical payout. But what I want everyone at home to hear is that regardless of how much you make on your first deal, Sean was out there for 16 months doing nothing. I mean, getting nothing. And then all of a sudden got this great payout. But the experience and the education that he got in the first 16 months, right, Sean, like really have geared you for future success.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have to get out there and do it, right? I mean, there's like, until you do it, you're not going to know what you don't know.
Right.
So,
And how long did it take you for your first listing?
my first listing, I didn't list a property. I worked with several buyers, but I didn't list a property until maybe month 7
There you
of
go.
being in real estate. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
yeah.
no, month 8. And I took 2 listings in that month, and I was like, I'm a gangster. But now that's pretty typical, right? So, look, I guess we have a couple more questions for you, and then I'm going to get to the live questions as well. I want to try and keep this under an hour. Oh, we're all right. Yeah. So, what are your what would you say, Sean, has changed since this happened, and has your life changed for the better, for the worse? What does that look like for you right now?
It's for the better and for the worse, because now I quit my job and I'm literally doing this full time. So I'm figuring out kind of how my schedule works out. So it's really tough, because I mean, once you so-and-so, what do you call it? You become an entrepreneur and you don't have any, you don't have anyone to report to. You work, it's really hard to stay on track, right? I mean, the one thing in 16 months is you got to stay persistent, consistent, and massive action. And, it's hard to do that consistently day in, day out when, you have this, you have 300 grand laying in the bank, right? So it's really tough. So it's just learning how to block time. So that's what I'm trying to learn right now.
Right.
It's really tough because, I'm so used to working. I've been working at a 9-to-5 job since I was 16. So I had to break through that.
Awesome. And so what does your daily routine look like now? Because I've found, right, Sean, and I'm sure that you'll agree that routine creates a certain level of accountability, right?
Right.
So what does your daily schedule look like? Because obviously flipping property, like, it's not like you have any set schedule. So what does that look like for you?
Right. So I mean, man, I've been kind of falling off. You're putting me on blast here.
Damn. Well, it looks like you need an accountability partner.
Exactly. So
I'll be texting you tomorrow at 5 a.m.
Exactly. So what
get your ass up, Sean.
Typically, my daily